What's up, everybody? It's K Fits, my life. I had the opportunity to meet somebody on YouTube. She commented on one of my videos, and I actually went to her channel, and she has some amazing videos about an organization that she was in called the ICOC, and I had never heard of. So I really thought it'd be great for us to get together and just have a conversation about it. So, guys, say what's up to Tina Marie J. What's up, Tina?
Hey,
How
what's
you
up?
doing?
I'm good. I'm doing pretty good.
That is what's up. So let's just jump right in. Tell me about this ICOC. I had never heard of it until I saw your comment. So tell me all about it and how you got into it.
Yeah, so the ICOC is stands for International Churches of Christ, and it's a church that is extremely manipulative, very controlling, and they're located everywhere. They're located pretty much in every state and even out the country. And the way I got into it was kind of like when you go to buy a car, but you're kind of window shopping. You're not sure if you want to buy it that day. And then the person tries to sell you into it. That's exactly how I got into it. I was sold into it. It was a very slick kind of way that I ended up doing some studies, and it was accidental studies because I didn't realize the studies were targeted on me. And then from there, I just kept going to the church, and it was crazy. It was a crazy experience.
Did someone approach you on the street, or did you go to a place where they were and then they talked to you? How did you meet the person that brought you into the organization?
Well, actually, my best friend that I've known ever since high school, she was a part of it. And she had introduced me to it. She was just like, Tina, you should come to this new church I'm in. It's really cool. You'll like it. So I wasn't really interested because I was already going to another church, but I wasn't a member. I was just going every now and then. And I got kind of tired of her asking me to come. So I went with her anyway. And then from there, she got me into some studies. And from the first study, I was just like, I don't want to do this because I thought that this was a team thing. I didn't know everyone was going to ask me these questions. And I didn't feel comfortable. I felt interrogated in a way.
Hmm.
So after that, about probably a year later, I was introduced to it again, and I had gotten married, and my husband started going, and we were newlyweds. And so since he was going, the members were trying to get him to get me to go. And from there, I started going, and it was mostly for support for him. And then that's when they started selling me into doing studies. You gotta do the studies. You gotta get fired up for God. You gotta join. They try to act all excited, like you're doing something exciting. It's not that exciting. No, it was terrible.
It's that love bombing. The JWs do it too. It's so many people that just come up to you and start talking to you and saying this amazing stuff and make you feel so welcome. It's crazy. Um, so what exactly what do they teach? Is it similar to what most churches teach, or is it something different? What is their core belief system?
Well, the ICOC believes that they're the one true church, and they believe the only way of salvation, the only way to get to heaven is if you are completely dunked in water. You have to be completely baptized. And if you're not baptized, then you're not part of God's kingdom. So, for instance, if I go there and I just go as a person who's coming every Sunday, I could be going there for years. According to the ICOC, I'm not saved unless I'm actually baptized. So that's
That's
their
very
biggest belief.
that's
They
very
believe that
simple.
they're the one true church. Like they believe that they're the only ones going to heaven. And a lot of them will say, no, that's not true. That's not true. But that's what I was taught when I had joined, was that anything I've done before the ICOC was wrong. Everything I'd ever done in my life, any church I went to taught me the wrong way. And I've been going to church my whole life.
That's so funny that you say that because with the Watchtower and the Jehovah's Witnesses, they teach the same thing, but for some reason, if you talk to an individual Jehovah's Witness, they will always say that that is not what we teach. We do not teach that you have to be a Jehovah's Witness to be saved. But the Watchtower and the publications that they put out, they all say that if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you're going to be destroyed in the day of Armageddon. So I wonder why there seems to be this disconnect between what the members say and what the organization actually publicizes and teaches. Wonder why that gap is there. What do they do that because they think you don't know what they actually teach, and this is a way to get people just to come in the door, and then maybe later on down the road they'll say, actually, we kind of do believe. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what they do. It's a setup. It's a part of their agenda. It's just everything they do, especially for new recruits. It's a whole setup to get you in the door. And then once you're in there, then you see what's going on the inside. They'll never admit, and I have a video about this, like they will never admit they're a cult. A person will go on one of my videos and say, that's not true, we're not a cult. Of course you're not going to say you're a cult because you're in one. That's the whole point.
Exactly. Exactly. It was so very well put. I'm really glad that we're having this conversation, Tina. And I'm gonna put a link to her channel and all the videos that she has in the description, guys. I think she has a very, very well thought out channel. She has really good topics. And go check her out, man, especially from a female's perspective, because I can only talk from a male perspective. So to have a female's perspective on everything that she's gone through, I think it's going to be a really good thing for a lot of the viewers. So you are indoctrinated into the ICOC. You said that you actually didn't want to do it, but you did it anyway. How long were you actually in the organization?
Well, I was a part of the ICOC for 7 years. And the way that I actually ended up doing it anyway was because what happened was my husband, he did his studies. It was like about, I think, 11, 10 to 12 studies, I'll say. And you have to do each by each. And my husband got his studies knocked out in like 2 weeks. And then he got baptized. I was at his baptism. I started to notice that he was hanging out with the guys at church, the brothers, and he was always out. He was never home. So I spoke to one of the disciples, they call each other disciples, who had did studies with him. And I said, I feel like he's never home anymore. He's always hanging out. And the man said to me, you have nothing to say because you're not a Christian and your husband is a Christian. And this is just what happens. You become a Christian, you become a disciple of God. And right now, he's on a whole nother level from you. So he has to hang out with us so you don't sink him back down to who he was before because he died. His old self has died. He's been renewed. He just gave me this whole speech and basically made me feel like I was not good enough. Like I basically need to do what he did in order to be on his level. Then he
So
said to
you
me,
basically would have to do what your husband was doing in order to get your husband back. In order to get your husband
yes,
back, you have to be a part of their organization.
I had to be a part of their organization because what I noticed was I felt like we were splitting apart but living in the same house. He was spending every single day hanging out with the people from this church, and I felt very funny. I felt very uncomfortable. Like I saw the signs, but I didn't know what to believe. So we were still newlyweds. So I was just like, I need to do something. He doesn't listen to me. He's listening to these people. I need to do something. And then that's when this man that did studies with him said to me, either you join us and you start doing your studies like we told you you should do, or you may as well forget it because your marriage is going to fail. And then I started doing my studies.
Wow. Wow. So you were what the Jehovah's Witnesses will call an unbelieving mate. Because in the Jehovah's Witness organization, if there's one who's a Jehovah's Witness and one who is not, then that person is what they call an unbelieving mate, and they do all these talks and they have all these publications about what to do or how to live with an unbelieving mate. And having somebody that is a JW and one that is not, of course, it's going to cause problems in the marriage because you have two different thought processes going on in the same home. So that makes it marriage is hard enough anyway, much less with dealing with that thrown into it as well. So you dealt with that. Now, how did it change? Did it change immediately once you decided to become an ICOC member? Was there a process that you had to go through as well to get to the point where you actually got your husband back, or what happened with that?
Um, that's kind of a tricky question because I never really felt like I got him back. I felt like I lost myself, but I
Mm.
thought I was doing it for the right reasons. I kept convincing myself I was doing it for God. So I had my little honeymoon phase where I got baptized. I was that super Christian who walked around with shirts that said Jesus is my anti-drug, and like literally I had a shirt that said that, and I had hats that said Jesus stuff on it. So everyone outside could know, oh, she's a new Christian. Look at her. Ooh, so I got into that whole thing, reading my Bible on the train, heading to work. But then after a while, I started to notice that no matter what I did, it was never enough. And no matter how much I read my Bible or showed myself to be this great Christian, I wasn't I wasn't getting there. I was always being told I needed to work on something, that I had heart issues. So that actually caused me and my husband to separate emotionally. Our communication was really bad and we were still living together, but it was like we were together physically. And I
Mm.
was losing myself and losing my relationship and losing my happiness. So I can say I pretty much lost myself the minute I decided to do those studies.
Wow. Wow. That that is a very good point, because I think a lot of people who are in the Jehovah's Witness organization have felt the exact same way. You have to, it's almost like this military thing where, if you people who have gone to the military say the one thing they do is they try to break you all the way down and strip everything that you are as an individual away, and then
Exactly.
build you up to be a part of this organization, so that you no longer have this individual type of thinking. And it seems to be the exact same way that happens in these cult organizations. And they have a way of taking, not even physically taking away things from you, but putting you in a position to where if you don't do the things that they want you to do, the atmosphere of their organization takes things away from you, or causes things that you are used to go away, so that you
Yeah.
can step up to what they want in order to get that level back. You know what I mean?
Right. That's true. That's exactly what they do.
So you and your husband go through this situation. How did it get better? Did it get better within the organization, or did you guys have to leave the organization in order for it to get better?
We had to leave. It was terrible. It was horrible. We had to leave. I mean, every time I thought that it was getting better, it was only getting worse because in the ICOC as a married woman, you're taught to submit. Submission is a huge, huge thing in the ICOC. And in order for you to submit, you have to do what makes your husband happy. And trust me, if someone watching this is in the ICOC, they will say I'm not telling the truth. They'll say I'm lying. But I'm telling the truth because this is all they taught me. This is something they tried to ingrain in me. But the reason why I had such a hard time is because I never was taught and raised to be this completely submissive wife who just completely forgets about everything that she enjoys and wants and submits to her husband. So the women in the ICOC, they have a very cultish, robotic way about them where everything is about their husband and everything is about making other people happy. It's like a people pleasing attitude. And so because I didn't adapt to that very well, it wasn't who I was. They just tried to change me. They tried to conform me, and it just made my marriage worse. So at times when my marriage wasn't really going bad and when we were doing fine, the other members would come and try to invent problems and try to speak to my husband individually or speak to me individually and invent problems. And next thing you know, we're fighting. And I'm like, we were doing fine. It's like you're trying to climb the ladder and you're never getting there. So I had to leave for things to get better.
When you talk about this submissive thing, I think in a relationship there is a certain level of give and take. I think everyone
Right.
would agree to that. Are you saying that they are were promoting it to a level that was just an unhealthy and a lopsided. Everything is for the guy, and there's no give from the guy to the woman. It's just all the woman giving to the guy. There's no equilibrium in that. Is that what you're saying that they were teaching?
Well, in this church, they do speak to the men about honoring the women and treating your wife as the church and the God or treats the church. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not a Bible scholar. I will get that scripture mixed up. But they do they do talk about that, and they do teach the men to love their wife and honor their wife. But at the same time, when it comes to women submitting, they always read the scripture that talks about wives submit to your husbands, and they do it in a very unhealthy way. So it's a difference between like having respect for each other and how you said a give and take, and just completely dismissing what you want and what you enjoy in your life just to make your husband happy and just to please him. It came down to like the way I dress. Like I was told how to dress. If I don't dress like this for my husband, he'll leave me for someone else. I mean, I would go to church wearing Converse sneakers and a t-shirt. It's Sunday morning. Who wants to get up on Sunday morning and get all dressed up? I mean, some people want to, but not me. I'm not a dressy type. So I was
Okay.
told I needed to change the way I dress.
Hmm.
And it was just like things like that. It's like things that you don't necessarily have to change. They just are very good at twisting scriptures in the Bible and saying, oh, well, you need to wear heels because, look, you got to submit. You got to do what your husband wants. He wants you to wear heels. Okay, but I have flat feet and heels are super uncomfortable. So I'm not wearing no heels. I'm wearing my freaking Converse sneakers.
Did your husband tell you he wanted you to wear heels to church?
No, he didn't tell me that. He didn't tell me that until they started blabbing their mouth talking about, oh, your wife has to wear some heels because then she'll look nice. And then now, next thing you know, because that woman over there wears heels for her husband, well, she could walk in them. There's a difference between me and her.
Well, it's not funny, but it's kind of funny the way you're saying it. But the
I'm
thing
sorry. I
is,
get very animated sometimes. I don't know how to do the whole super professional Christian way of this is like how I am.
yeah, this is why I kind of want to talk to you because I figured it would be a very laid back conversation. That's kind of what I think is going to help people because you don't have to be all uptight all the time. But I think the thing with that is it shows that how people can be influenced simply by the people they're around. Because if your husband never said that before, and then all of a sudden he's with the ICOC people and they say, "Hey, your wife needs to do this," then he automatically starts thinking, "You know what? Yeah, you need to start doing this." And that is
Yeah.
a way that those organizations start to put a little wedge in between people's relationships because their relationship could be totally fine the way that they have it, and the organization says no, your relationship should be this way, and then you need to go and tell your wife to do this, and you need to go tell your husband to do that, and you don't need to listen to your husband when he says this, and you don't need it starts a whole process of problems in relationships, and I had that happen to me personally, so I can agree with you that that is what happens.
Right.
um so how did you and your husband get out? Did you both get out at the same time? Did one of you say, "Hey, I think we need to get out of this place"? How did that whole thing work?
Well, I had wanted to leave probably by like my first year that I was a member, but I didn't have anyone that could relate with me. I would try to talk to people and tell them, I feel like this church is always telling me what to do. I feel like my life has changed in a way that I don't feel comfortable. And no one could understand, so I thought I was going crazy. So I kept it to myself. And then finally, by like the seventh year, by the time we hit the seventh year of being members, I was the one who said, I'm leaving. And he didn't really, well, not really that he didn't want to leave, but he was down with it. He's a very kind of reserved guy. It's like, if that's what you want, all right, let's go. He didn't really feel he connected with the church anyway because he didn't have any close relationships. And to him, connection in a church is really important. So it was fine for him to leave, but it was still difficult because our relationship was so damaged from being in it. But I was the one who was like, listen, you want to stay, you could stay, but I can't take any more. I'm leaving. I don't care what anyone tells me. I can't take it anymore.
That is exactly what happened with me, and I talked about it in my video as well. I told my wife at the time that I no longer want to be a Jehovah's Witness. I said, I'm not going to stop you from going. You go and do what you want to do. but I know in my heart this thing is not the right thing for me. I know it's not the truth. I can't do it anymore. So go off and do your thing. I'm gonna do my thing, whatever. So you say that to him. How does he take it, and what does he do at that point?
Well, at first we got into an argument. The first time I told him, he was like, "All right, that's fine. We can visit other churches. It's cool." But then one day we got into an argument. I don't know. I think that someone might have possibly spoken to him and said something, because then we had an argument, and then he just was like, "You should go where I go. You're supposed to submit to me. You're supposed to do what makes me happy." And I was just like, someone must have definitely said something, because it was just really random. Like, one minute you were cool with us leaving, and now, you want to have this whole fight. And at that moment, I got nervous because I thought this could make or break our marriage, but I knew I had to stick to my decision. Everything was on the line. At this point, I lost all my so-called friends. I didn't want to lose him too, but in my mind, I was like, that's what it takes, because I'm going to lose myself if I stay.
Such a good point. And you have another video where you talk about losing friends in your organization, and the way you brought that out, where if you lose them, they're not really your true friends anyway. I thought was a really, really good. The way you, I can't say it the way Tina said it, guys. I'll put a link to the video in the description. But it's a really good video about how you should view leaving an organization simply because of you not wanting to lose people in your life. I thought she verbalized it very well. So even in a situation where it's a significant other, I think the important thing that you just said was that you didn't want to lose yourself. And that
Right.
is something that happens even in the Jehovah's Witness organization. I can't believe the similarities between these two cults. Um,
Yeah.
I wonder, there just must be a cult handbook out there that says, hey, if you want to start a cult and control a whole bunch of people, this is how you do it, because they're so similar.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you not wanting to lose yourself, even if you stay in the organization and you lose yourself, but you keep your relationship, can you really be happy at that point with knowing that if you give yourself away, then you have literally given everything that you have. There is nothing more important than who you are and the essence of your being. So to give that up for another person or another organization, you've given away everything at that point. So for you
Yeah.
to be able to say, hey, I don't want to give up myself for this organization and even for my relationship, that is a very, very huge thing to be able to say. So when
Mm.
you said that, how was that received? How did your husband receive that? And I think this is an important conversation because I know for a fact that there are a lot of people who are either in either organization that may want to leave but aren't doing so because their significant other is in the organization. So I think what you're
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
is super, super relevant.
Yeah, well, when I made that video, it was because I had a couple emails within that week. Like, three people emailed me with a situation where they were married and they didn't want to leave because they were holding on. And so I was just like, you know what? I need to make this video, because I feel like you have to get to the point where you have to realize what you're doing. You have to get to a point where you're like, wait a minute, I'm staying in this church for people, but I entered it for God. But you're not in it for God, because if you were, you wouldn't feel like you have to do everything everyone tells you, or like you have to listen to them or soak in all the negative energy that they give you. And they had did that to me for so long, and I was only in there for 7 years. But for me, that was 7 years of my life that just, I went through a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and I was like, I refuse to continue. I refuse to raise my kids here, and I wasn't in it for the right reasons. And it was hard. Honestly, it was the hardest decision I've ever made in my life. One of the hardest decisions.
So once you made that decision, how did how did your husband take it, and at what point? Because it seems like you guys have a great relationship at this point. How did it get to a
Yeah,
point
we're getting
where
there.
how did it get to a point where it started to to men, because this is a huge thing that has happened in you guys' relationship. Religion, people make lifelong decisions based on their religion. People make decisions
Right.
on who they're going to be with, what they're going to do, you know, years into their lives, where they're going to go, how they're going to raise their kids. It is a huge part of a relationship. So how did you guys start to rebuild your relationship? And then later, I want to talk about how you seem to have rebuilt yourself, because you have a lot of videos about yourself and how to heal after coming out of an organization like this. And I think it's super relevant, because even in the Jehovah's Witness organization, the women outnumber the men in that organization. The women, there are way more female Jehovah's Witnesses than there are
Mm.
male Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, wow.
So I think that what you're saying is so relevant, which is why I really want to talk to you. But before we get all down, what you're saying is so great. I just have so many questions for you. But
Yeah.
so
I love the questions. I don't hold back.
good, 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 good.
Yeah.
So how did you guys start to mend your relationship?
Well, it was a very rough and agonizing journey. It was hell because we fought so much and we almost split up so many times. And we had to just kind of go through the motions. Like I always tell people, it's a process and you can't avoid it. Sometimes negative things are going to happen because that's just a part of your journey and you have to allow it to just happen. So I had to learn to just allow everything that was happening to go on. And because the problem is that my husband kept his faith, but I started to lose it. So I didn't just leave the church. I started to actually leave religion. I started to rethink how I thought of religion, how I thought about just church in general. And so that split us up even more because he's in the house praying and watching videos of God and I couldn't stand it. I had to leave. It was a trigger for me. I was just like, oh, I can't. I couldn't go to church. It was 2 years. It's been 2 years since we left, and I just now started going back to church, but I still am very careful. I still walk on eggshells. So within the 2 years of us leaving, it took a lot of just talking to each other and accepting. He had to accept the fact that I am not a Christian. I don't call myself a Christian. I don't label myself a Christian. And he had to accept the fact that I went through the things I went through. And he didn't go through what I went through, but it took a lot of him seeing how hurt I was over the 2 years that we left for him to see that so that he could know, like, wow, this really affected you. Because he didn't realize how much it affected me when we left.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually made a rule that we were not allowed to talk about anything religious because we would just get into arguments. He would try to show me videos of proof and evidence that God is real. And I believe in God. I'm not sure about the Bible. He's like, all right, boom, I got a video about that too. And I'm just like, I don't want to see it right now. Just give me my time. And that was difficult. But it's been a journey and we're still getting through the journey. We're still getting through the process and it's still is difficult at times, but to me, I can say for anyone who's going through something like this, the most important thing is that you have to just allow yourself to just go through the process and just be honest with yourself. If you don't believe in God, don't say you do when you don't. If you don't believe in religion, don't say you do when you don't. Be honest with yourself. Admit that you are not the same wife or husband you were when you were in your cult. You're different. Your spouse is probably different, and find a way to make it work to say, you know what, we can stay committed to each other and make this work. And I mean, it was easier for me just because he left with me. But for people whose spouse are still in, that's a little more difficult.
Do you think he left because he actually stopped believing in the organization, or did he leave, do you think, because of you?
I think he definitely left because of me at first. I don't think he realized exactly how much of a negative impact the ICOC has on people until he saw how it affected me. And when I started doing my channel and I would tell him, like stories, I would tell him like, oh, this person went through this and that. And that's when he was like, wow, like I did not know it's that deep. Like that's rough. But I think he definitely left it first, mainly because of me, because he didn't have an emotional connection to the church.
Got you. Got you. I hear what you're saying too. I think, and I wonder if this is something that happens with a lot of people once they leave an organization like a cult-like organization, because people ask me, "Do you believe in God?" And I it's a question that when people ask me, I immediately kind of get defensive because I already know how they're going to receive my answer. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh,
So
I hate that.
I hate that question, but I always answer it honestly because I don't want to fall back into the ways that I was when I was in the organization. You know what I mean? I don't want to start hiding from things and being this double-lived person where I'm one way around the people who are in an organization a different way. I pride myself on being who I am all the time, even if people think I'm a jerk sometimes. I still accept that too. Uh,
Yeah.
but the answer to that question is always, I believe in a creator. I believe that there's something out there that created something that we're in right
Yeah.
now. But I don't subscribe to organized religion. I just
Right.
can't wrap my head around that, and I
Hmm.
don't believe that the creator that created everything is the same creator that is in the Bible. I
Right.
can't say that I think the Bible is the same word of the creator that created everything.
Me
So
too.
I believe in a creator. I don't believe in the God of the Bible, and I
Hmm.
don't believe in organized religion. So that is my standpoint. I know a lot of people who may know me personally in Nashville that see this are gonna be like, "Oh, for real, Keith? You don't believe that's what you think?" Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
you're
I
gonna you're
think.
gonna you're gonna definitely get it later.
Yeah, I'm gonna pay for it. And saying that, oh my goodness, saying that led me to the video I just commented on you on that you made a few days ago about running into people who are in your organization or cult that you were in.
Oh God.
That video was so good, Tina, because you know what? It happened to me a few days ago. I was in the Kroger around the corner from my house. I moved and I live in a different part of town. I was like, well, I'm never going to see anybody because I live in a whole different part of town. Well, I saw this guy that used to come to my house and study with me. And he saw me. And in the back of my head, when you see somebody, you immediately think, "Oh, here we go. I'm gonna have to start."
Yeah.
It's like this. It's this weight that when you see him, it's like, "Oh man, here we go. I'm gonna have to start
Yeah.
talking to this person. They're gonna start asking me questions. I don't want to." And you almost want to. For years, when I left the organization, if I saw someone and they didn't see me, I would immediately go the other way. I
Yeah.
don't even want to deal with it. But
Hmm.
then later I said, you know what? I'm not gonna be that person. Why are you strong enough to confront every other jerk that you deal with in life, but this one still has some power over you? That you're not gonna do that, dude. Go and walk up to that person. If they ignore you, then they ignore you, but don't run away from
Right.
them. So, I walked up to the guy, and he looked me right in the face and saw me coming, and he immediately turned away from me and wouldn't speak to me. It's
Wow.
what happens a lot in the organization, that once you leave, you're basically dead to these people.
Oh yeah, like the Amish. They just
Yeah,
completely dismiss you.
yeah. So I'm sorry to be jumping around, but you just have so many really good videos, guys. I really want you guys to
Thank
check
you. I'm
out.
glad you like it.
Yeah, she has really, really good videos. So, getting back to what we were talking about, one thing I like about you too is you talk about a lot of positive things on your channel. It's not you do have I feel like in this work you have to explain the negative things that have happened to you because that's what people will relate to as well. But you also
Mhm.
have to give some solutions. You just can't talk about the negative part of it all the time. So what I
Right.
liked about you is that you talk about some positive things. So what are some of the positive things that you had to do, the way you had to change your thinking after you left the organization to become the person that you are now?
Well, I had a real issue with feeling like I was not enough for God. So I had to just really reconstruct my entire thinking. I had to change my focus, I had to shift it, and I had to basically renew myself as a whole. And that wasn't just mentally, but it was also emotionally and physically. And that was the only way I could basically like restart my life and be the person that I feel I was meant to be. Because when I was in the ICOC, I was always told that my purpose was to live for God and to get other people to come to the church so that they could get baptized and be with God. And I felt like that was it. Like, this is all I'm here for. So when I left, it took a while, but I ended up learning about different things and different religions. Like, I like the practices of Buddhists. I like the some of the things that they do. I started to learn about laws of attraction, and it was scary because as a Christian or a person of the ICOC, you're not allowed to read about any other religion or anything that has nothing to do with the Holy Bible. You're not allowed to believe in laws of attraction. That's like taboo. But I ended up learning about it and I liked it. And I was just like, you know what? This doesn't sound too bad. I mean, I'm not doing witchcraft. And it just really changed my thinking. And I became a really positive person. Like, I was never this positive when I was going to church or as a Christian. I was never this positive. I always felt like I was in a box. So I like to try to help people to know, like, yes, you went through bad experiences. Yes, you were in a very, very controlling organization, but you do not have to stay this way. You don't have to stay broken. You can reclaim your identity, but you have to change your mind, because if you don't change your mindset, then you're going to be miserable and depressed. I've spoken to people who've been out of the cult for 20, 25 years, and they're still dealing with suicidal thoughts. And that's not okay.
That is a very good point, because even in the whole, besides me wanting to do things to help people and not putting people on blast. We already talked about this before we went live.
Mm,
Um, One of the things the organization does is they make you believe that once you leave the organization, your life is going to be horrible. They make you believe that if you leave this organization, your life will not amount to anything and you're going to have a horrible, horrible life. And for years after I left the organization, the hardships that I went through, I attributed it to that. And then
right.
once you get to a certain point, I had to say, you know what, Keith, everything that you've gone through is a direct result of all the choices that you've made. It has nothing to do with anything else. It has to do with the choices that you've made. Every choice that you have made has led you to this point. Even choosing to be a part of that organization was a choice that you made that led you to this point. That's not to absolve them from their part in being deceitful to people. It was something that I had to do to empower myself enough to say, well, if you made those choices to get you in this situation, you can also make choices to get yourself out of that situation.
Right.
So the witnesses have a way of really making you feel that life revolves around them and you can't do anything outside of them. So I
Mm-hmm.
think being able to show people that you can have a good life outside of the cult was another reason why I wanted to start my channel, because I think most, like you said, a lot of people are away for years physically, but mentally they are still in the organization. So in order to help people to realize that they can get out of the organization mentally as well, you have to show them, hey, your life is not just about where you were, it's about where you are and where you're going. Um, Question, how does the OCOC make money?
OCOC.
I mean,
It's
sorry,
ICOC.
ICOC.
No, it's okay.
How does the
Um,
ICOC make money?
we could butcher their name a bit. I don't care. How do they make money? They make money off of the members. They love to get a lot of contributions. They have the special missions contribution. They have this contribution of, I think it's like $395 a year, where you have to save up your money and donate $395 a year. And they have their what do they call it, like for the homeless. They every Sunday, you don't just give for the church. It's okay, we're collecting for the homeless and now we're collecting for the church. Like, that's how they do it. So they make a crap load of money, and I don't really know a lot of what goes on with it. Like I'm actually still in the process of learning about that because I have some people I speak to who work behind the scenes when it comes to payroll, and I've heard some craziness. Like they do things with the money that none of the members know about, which is why they have nice houses and all these things. And but yeah, no, they make a lot of money off of their members.
That's the same with the I mean the Watchtower is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I've never understood
Yeah.
why God needs that much money. Uh,
That's funny. Like,
I'm
what's he
just,
gonna do with this
what's he gonna
money?
do with it? Buy some
That's
pants? I
exactly what
mean,
I
come on.
wonder.
um, I
Oh,
don't know.
you're giving because God, gives to you. Like I hate when they say that because I'm just like, first of all, I have it in one of my videos. God doesn't do anything with my money. So if you want it because you want it for the church, just say give for the church. Don't say give to God. I'm sorry. That's a huge pet peeve. You can continue.
I'm right there with you. It's you know what it's great to even be able to think this way because when you're in the organization, it's so weird that these simple thoughts don't cross your mind. And I think that is
Right.
a real reason that these kind of talks need to happen because people don't realize how these organizations keep you from even having the simplest thought of, wait a minute, why does God need this much money? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a very simple question, but I never asked it when I was in the organization. I never even thought about it.
Yeah.
So um how did you keep from losing yourself? How did you realize that you were losing yourself? How did you keep that from completely happening? And it seemed like you rebuilt yourself into this whole new amazing person. What was the process? How did you
Oh,
do
thank
that?
you. Honestly, I never even thought about that because I kind of always felt like I did lose myself. I did lose myself even after I left the church. I kind of like went down a bad spiral. I made some friendships that were negative and very toxic, and it was just a bad situation one after another. But I I could have probably completely lost myself if I committed suicide, which I'm not the type to do something like that. It sounds too painful, but I've heard of people who did actually in this church commit suicide. So I had to let myself go. I didn't realize how much I lost myself until I left. And then when I realized like this is not who I am. Like I've become one of them and now I don't know who the hell I am. I remember leaving and one day feeling so depressed. Just I was just so down and out and I was crying cuz nothing was working out for me. I didn't know what to do cuz no one spoke to me anymore. I had people tell me that they can't talk to me anymore because I'm not in the church, and these are people that we're supposed to be, my sisters in Christ and we're family. But when I leave, they're not there. And then I didn't have any outside friends because you're not really encouraged to have that. I don't really want to say you're not allowed because there are members who are like, please, I'm going to do what I want. Not every single ICOC member is crazy, but majority of them are. And so I didn't have any friends. And at that point, I just said to myself, like, who the hell am I? Like, what am I going to do? And then at that point, that was when I just started learning about changing my mindset. I realized, like, okay, I don't feel like I'm enough for God. How do I fix that? How do I become enough for me? How do I accept the fact that I'm not a Christian? How do I accept the fact that I don't believe in the things that are in the Bible? I don't believe these are real stories. Like, how do I accept this? And I had to just learn.
Wow. Wow. How do you deal with your extended family? Were they ICOC members, or how does your relationship work with your extended family?
Well, my extended family are not members. Thank God they're not members. It was just me, my kids, and my husband. That's it. My mom, she thought it was a cult the minute that she came to my baptism, and she's been like a woman of God for ages, but she doesn't really go to church anymore because she doesn't like the way the whole system is built. But she came in and she was like, "There's something wrong with this place. These people, there's just something off." So that was the easy thing for me, as I didn't have any family that I needed to take with me. I do have a couple of friends that were my only real true friends. Like my best friend is still in. She doesn't believe it's a cult, but she doesn't think like them. Like there are people who are in it and they don't necessarily think like in the cultish kind of way. They don't carry the characteristics. They kind of just ignore it. But I think it depends on which ICOC you're in. The one that I happen to be in, they're just very, very controlling, and I happen to be in, I think, probably one of the worst ones.
Where was what part of the country was that in?
New York City, and the New York City Churches of Christ. That's the one that I was a part of.
Okay.
And yeah, I mention it in my videos. And the reason why I have no problem with saying where I was in is because when I started the videos, I didn't really start it with the hopes of having a whole channel. I just had this thought one day and I was just like, I should make a video because I was feeling really depressed and I was hanging on to a lot of anger. And I made one video, and then from there, people were like, can you make more? And so I kept making videos, and I was like, oh crap, there's a lot of people who feel the way I feel. And so when I first started, originally, I wasn't going to even say I was in the ICOC. But then I thought, well, what the hell is the point of me making videos about a cult, but no one knows which one I'm in? Like, I could probably help more people if they know which one I'm in.
Hmm.
And that's why I have no problem telling people I was in the New York City Churches of Christ. And not, like I said before, not everyone in there is, crazy, but a lot of people in there are crazy. And I don't filter anything. I think I've like gotten like a certain level of confidence to the point where I can say things that people don't want to say. Like, you know when you're thinking something, you're like, oh, this person's so stupid, but you don't want to say it because it's not politically correct. It's not like a nice thing to say. I'm the one
Right.
who's like, my filter kind of goes out for a while, and I'm like, oh, that's so stupid. So to me, the things that cults do, I think, are ridiculous, and I think it gets very crazy, and you know, I do think that they have good intentions sometimes, but not everyone has good intentions. I'm sorry, I know I'm going off. I'll take over this
No.
whole Google Hangout for you.
Hey,
Hand
do
me the
it.
mic.
All right. So I also saw that you are a life coach, right?
Yes, I
So how
started
does
that recently.
how do you help people through your life coaching?
Well, I get so many emails of people asking me for advice, and I see so many stories that people have that are just there's times where I go to bed and I start to cry because I really, really feel emotionally attached to the people that watch my videos. And even though it's not a lot to me, what matters is that there are people and it touches me. So I decided, let me start a business of life coaching because it has everything I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about making YouTube videos. I'm passionate about helping people and I love to write. So I kind of put my writing in that a little. I make little mini ebooks. Like I'm working on an ebook right now about my experience in the cult. And so that was your question, right? Like how did I start the okay.
Yeah.
I talk a
Yeah.
lot. I talk a lot, Keith. Like I'll
That's
just go
great.
on the whole
That's great. That's
I
great for a
forget. I'm like, what
conversation.
did he ask? Yeah, but that's how I started. I was just like, you know what? I should do a life coaching business because then I can help people more and I can actually coach people and help them. How can you not necessarily get over what you went through? Because to be honest, I don't think we ever get over it.
I
But
agree. I
yeah, you
agree.
have to learn
There's
how
not
to
as much
live your
to learn
life.
about it. Hmm. Yeah.
Right. I
Great
teach
point.
people how to live their life and accept this is what I went through, but that's not who I am. And they have to accept and know that they have to become who they were meant to be. Whether you're still in religion or you're still, believing in God or you're atheist, it doesn't matter. You are who you are and you have to accept that. And that's what I try to teach people. Accept and embrace and move forward.
Great, great stuff. There's a great quote that says you shouldn't try to get rid of your demons. You should learn how to stand on top of them and
Oh,
continue to go
wow.
through your life. And that's exactly what I feel like you have to do with the cults that you're in. Even with me being out for almost 20 years, there
Oh,
are still
wow.
times when I catch myself hearing the songs that we would sing every Sunday, or saying
Ugh,
some of the quotes that I would hear all the time. Or there'll be times if
yes.
I watch a YouTube video and they put that song as the background music of their YouTube video, I can't watch the video. It's still a
Mm,
trigger. It doesn't go
wow.
away. It
Yeah.
doesn't go away. So your point
Mm-hmm.
is very well taken. Like, that stuff doesn't leave you. You have to learn how to live your life in spite of it. So great point. So
Mm-hmm.
how how is your life now? How do you view your outlook on where you're going, where you're headed? How do you feel about life in general right now?
I feel pretty good. I feel like it's still a journey. So even though I do help people, I don't pretend like I'm at this perfect place and I've reached my place, because I think it's more about the journey, not about, the exact destination. But I feel like I'm very optimistic. Like, I see so many great things happening. I stay as positive as I can. I'm a pretty positive person. I have my days. I still go through my moments. But to me, what's most important is that I keep that positive mindset. I have the good vibes going. Some people love me and some people will hate me. And I don't really care. But, to me, it's like, hey, if you love me, then I love you too. We're good to go. And I feel like that's just what it's about, because when I was in the church, I didn't have that. It was more like I could only love the people that were in the church. But now I love everyone. I feel like I have a new way of thinking, and I can accept and embrace so many different people, even atheists I've become friends with online. I've never even known an atheist. I used to actually have my own little thoughts about them that were not very good, like
Right,
judgmental.
right.
So,
Likewise.
right. And I just see things being so much positive. I still want to continue with my journey and vlog my journey so that people could see this is a journey. It takes a long time, but you can enjoy the ride. You don't have to be depressed or feel like a horrible person. You can still enjoy your life. You can still follow your dreams. That's my whole thing.
Man, I don't think there is a better note to end this conversation on. That was great. I know you
Thank
have to go.
you.
I know you have to go. I don't want to keep you too long, but hey, thank you so much, Tina. I think
Yeah.
you have a lot of really, really great things to say that's going to help a lot of people. So, congratulations on you and your work, and keep it up. And I'm going to comment and watch every one of your videos when they come out. Because
Oh, thank you. And I'm gonna continue to watch yours because I love your channel.
thank you, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up. I know Tina has some stuff to do, and so do I. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will catch you guys on the next one. All right. Thanks, Tina.
Bye.